What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Nutrients Way podcast. I'm here today at Lissome, which is probably, I would think, the most recognisable gym in Newcastle at this stage, or at least the most well-known. And I'm here with owner Nerida Bint to talk all things what they've been doing here and for the wider Newcastle fitness community and women all around for the last 4 years.
We've been open nearly 6 years, actually.
6 years.
Yeah, we turned 6
right
in August.
Awesome. So welcome to the show, Nez.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure catching up with you, as always.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to kick off. Let's talk about your background in training, what got you to getting started in this whole journey, and then leading into starting your own gym.
Yeah, well, my kind of entry into the fitness industry was a little bit eventful. So it was nearly 10 years ago now. I was about 20 kilos overweight and really searching for something to kind of get myself back into shape. I'd played a lot of team sport, been involved in surf lifesaving, but really struggled to go to the gym and train on my own. And I was already kind of doing some sort of training, but it just didn't have the intensity that I needed. And I happened to buy a house across the road from a CrossFit gym, and I was so excited to go over and become a part of it. I was just amazed watching all these women doing crazy things like doing pull-ups and doing, like picking up barbells and throwing them above their heads and rope climbs. And the ironic thing is, most people are so intimidated to step into that environment. I actually wasn't. I was so excited, but I was really naive. And I'll never forget the day that I went over there to inquire about joining up. I was just like, I'm so excited. I can't wait. Take my money. And, I met the owner and was chatting to him, and he looked me up and down and said, "Darling, this is not for you." Yeah, it was pretty harsh. I'll never forget that day. I felt like humiliated, absolutely mortified. So I left, and it was months later. I, was still really struggling and, hadn't really found my way. I bumped into a friend. He'd been training at a CrossFit gym and lost about 15 kilos and just was loving it. And he said, "Come along with me to my gym." And I was really hesitant at first, obviously, but I went along and I had the complete opposite experience. I was welcomed in with open arms. The owner, introduced me to 5 or 6 people. The first workout we did was hectic. It was 4 rounds of, 20 burpees, 20 box jumps, 20 pull-ups, and 400-meter runs. It was crazy. But
I think that's a commonality thing amongst CrossFit, is everyone remembers that first one in there. And not that I've really had much experience in that way, but I remember one of the guys that I went to uni with, he was like, "No, dude, you have to do this. Do Fran 21, 15, 9 thrusters and pull-ups." And I think it took me a reasonable time for, at that point, this was early days before everyone was doing it in a minute or whatever the ridiculousness has got to now. But at the time I was like, "Oh, that's not too bad," but I laid on the ground for 30 minutes after.
Yes, very intense. You never forget that first experience. And if you ask anybody, I think they can always remember their first day.
Yeah.
But one thing I remember was at the end of the workout, everybody was completely finished way before I was, but I'll never forget the last set. I remember it finished off with 20 burpees, and everybody got down and did their burpees, an extra set of burpees with me. And then everyone was high-fiving me at the end of it. And one lady hugged me, and I just remember thinking, "Oh my goodness, this place was amazing." So of course I signed up, and the owner said to me, "What are your goals?" And I was in tears as I told him I wanted to lose 20 kilos. Anyway, and he said to me, "I can help you. Come here 5-6 days a week, look at your nutrition." And sure enough, 12 weeks later to the day, I'd lost 21 kilos, and my life has never been the same since. In saying that, I didn't start a gym straight off the back of that. I stayed there for a couple of years. And if I look at my life 10 years ago, it was very different to what it was today. And I realize now I had to focus on one thing at a time. So I was in such a dark place. I was in a relationship I wasn't really happy in. I was in a job I wasn't happy or fulfilled in. So I got my health, under wraps, and that took me a year or two. And then finally that gave me a bit of confidence. So I left the relationship I wasn't happy in. I was okay to go out on my own. And then 12 months after that, I left the job that I wasn't happy in either. But at that time, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And my boss, when I left, he said to me, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I have no idea." He said to me, "You should become a personal trainer." And I laughed at him. I said, "Who would want to train with me?" And he said, "Nerida, your face lights up when you talk about burpees." Anyway, even after that, I didn't think anything of it.
It kind of still sick. I'm a fitness guy, that still sickens me a
I
little
know.
bit.
Well, it wasn't so much the burpees. It was they had gone through seeing my transformation, and every time I'd come into work, I would just be so lit up, and people would ask me for help on, advice on training and nutrition, and I would just tell them my experience, and I just wanted to help as many people as I could. And you could obviously see that in me. And I've come to since realize that often other people can see, your skills and your skill set better than you can. So anyway, it was a couple months after that. I'd been bumming around, not doing too much, and I went into a women's only supplement store, got chatting to the owner. I was asking her for work. She didn't have any. She suggested we start a boot camp together. I wasn't a personal trainer, but she said, she could help me out and be the trainer with me if I organised the girls, and came along, gave her a hand. And before you know it, I'm walking out of there with 10 phone numbers telling them to be at Nobby's Beach at 6 a.m. the following Monday, and 8 of them turned up, and I've never looked back since. It went from being a boot camp 3 days a week to 5 days a week, and then it went to saying to the girls, they wanted more, so I'd say to them, come and train with me at my CrossFit gym where I was training at the time, and they were like, no way too intimidating, and we don't want to do CrossFit. But I was kind of like, but you're kind of doing it right now. They didn't know it. And then I started to think about it, and I was like, I wonder what a women's only gym that was kind of CrossFit but not CrossFit would be like. And as soon as I started talking about it, they were just like, when is it opening? So I found myself like every day for months, like searching for spaces, creating, like finding, how do I create a business? And it was the weirdest thing. I was so obsessed with it and so excited that the universe just like completely opened up and made it happen. Like, every day I'd think, this is the one thing I've got to do today. Like I've got to go and find a space. So I'd just accidentally meet a real estate agent, or the next day I'd be like, oh, I want to create a logo. And like a graphic designer, a friend of mine that was a graphic designer would contact me out of the blue. Like it was just the weirdest thing. And we've gone from, boot camp space to a small space in Tyers Hill to this space in Carrington to now we've opened Maitland, and now we've gone online. It's just an ongoing evolution of, progress.
Yeah, like there's so much in there, in that section of a couple of minutes, which is really, really gold. And I think one of the big things that stood out was like that first person that was like, oh, this isn't for you. It was like, in ways that person was like kind of like the piece that probably, like, say they let you in and you just didn't enjoy it at that place there, like as much as that person, like, and I don't know who that guy is, but like was a jerk to you in the moment, probably is someone in itself as like the catalyst into what this place is about now.
Oh, 100%. At the time, I thought it was the worst experience ever, but it's actually, in hindsight, and they always, Steve Jobs says it, like it's easy to connect the dots looking back. He did me he gave me such a gift, and it was such a lesson, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because now, 6 years later, I pride myself on creating two spaces where every day, that's all I talk to my girls about. Every single person that walks through that door, we've even got a thing called the 5-second rule. Like, if you come to our front door, someone has to have greeted you within 5 seconds. And that's not just a coach, that's members too. Our members get our culture just as much as our coaches do. And, I don't, like, that's all I care about. There are so many personal trainers out there that are so hell-bent on, results and, the technique and this and that. And don't get me wrong, I'm all about that stuff too. But you're not even going to get there if you can't build that rapport from the get-go. Like, you've got to build that first. So that's such a huge thing for me, to make sure any woman that walks in any of my doors is made to feel welcome the minute they step in.
100%. And that's the key, is like one of the key things that keep on popping up when I speak to more coaches like yourself, and it's one of the things that we try to instill with the staff that we have at New Strength, is like, it's beyond the reps. Like, I'm a sports science guy. I spent like 4 years at uni. I've read research papers, and I was so deep diving into it, and I was like, I at the time believed, I was like, I can write the best program out of anyone, and this and that. And it's like, the more time that I've spent around the spaces, it's like, I put probably way less time into there's still plenty of effort and that apply to the programming now, but it's like, way more of it's like, how can it be engaging for people? How can we make an experience around this that's going to get them to grab into fitness, what fitness has done for me and what fitness has done for our other coaches themselves. It's like, what is it that made us love it, and how can we then do those little steps and make it as a consistent, it's a repeatable thing, that people come in through our doors, people come into Lissome, people come into New Strength, and they walk out falling in love with fitness, or they fall in love with strength. And that's so much more important to to actually like a person's life, because people really don't care if they do sets of 10 or sets of 8 or whatever it is on that day. And then 2 is like, even for a business to function better, like you can only go so far being the best programmer in the world or the best technician in the world.
Yeah.
But if you have all these other pieces that are going to help connect people together, it goes way, way further as a coach than anything else that you can do from a sports science perspective.
Yeah. You know, what most people are looking for is connection, you know, and of course they want to come along, they want to get sweaty, they want to get fit, they want to get strong, they want to see that they're progressing and they're improving, of course. But my point is, you know, I think in this industry, from what I've seen, and I've only been in it 6 years, like before, you know, opening a gym, I wasn't a personal trainer. I never worked for anybody else. Like I didn't work, you know, at another gym. I didn't really I got thrown in the deep end. But I think from what I've seen is, you know, a lot of coaches and business owners get so hell-bent on the wrong things. Like they don't focus on that connection, and they don't focus on the culture and encouraging a place where, you know, other members are welcoming. Like, you know, I've been to CrossFit gyms where, you know, it's all about the elites and you know, and everybody else just gets forgotten, and, you know, and that's 5% of your gym. And it's just kind of like, well, there's actually a lot of people out there that are doing really great things. Like we've got 60-year-old women here that are deadlifting 60 kilos. I think that's pretty friggin' amazing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I think there's so much, you know, when you look deep within your community, there's so much going on that we're just not in touch with, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a huge lesson for any of the coaches that are listening to the podcast. Is like, it's more of like what's beyond like that elite piece, and like as I think we were talking beforehand, there's still plenty of that in like both of our gyms too. But and we do highlight that occasionally. Like we've got at our gym, like people like one of the guys that spent a little bit of time with us is actually playing NRL for the Knights this week.
Yeah.
And that's amazing to get the luxury to work with a person like that every now and then. But like we have like 99% of the rest of our clients are everyday people that what they want is, as you said, connection. They want a place where they feel comfortable. Like we have more people turn up to burgers, beers and deadlifts than actually turn up to train. Like, I feel like some people keep their memberships just so they can turn up like to that day.
Yeah, I've thought about buying a membership for that reason myself.
and that's the thing, like it's open to anyone anyway, so like you don't even need to, like you can just come along. Like if you're only hanging around for that, it's fine.
Just turn up. Just buy us a burger.
Yeah, exactly. So Nez, let's talk about like you went from that transformation of progressively like taking that little step forward, and a big part of that sounds like it was finding the right people to help support you in that way there. Like who have been some other influences in that for you of like whether it be helping grow the community here, whether it be developing yourself through that space? Has there been other people specifically that have been really, really important for your own development? And really what we're looking at here is like the importance of having coaches and mentors for even people like yourself who, like, from everyone seeing outwardly is like you've been super successful both in your fitness journey, in your business journey, and I really want to highlight that piece.
I'm a big believer in every coach needs a coach, and also that you need different people in your lives for different things, you know, and in your life, sorry. I don't have several lives going on.
Some people might.
You never know. I mean, first person must, you know, absolutely could not have done this without is Ashley. She's our head coach here at Newcastle. And I think it was when I employed her full time that I really began to like grow up and become serious about this. And it was so nice. Like for years before that, I'd been on my own and I felt really lost and I didn't really have somebody to kind of lean on to bounce ideas off and to help me. And honestly, not only has she pushed me and driven me to become more of a business person, but also she's she's so interested in self-development and growing herself personally that I've just grown so much, you know, in having a friendship with her in that aspect as well. You know, she's probably as close to loving this place and doing as much for this place as I do without actually, you know, having to be an owner. Like she's just been, you know, absolutely, you know, I can't even begin to explain. We would not be here sitting talking if it wasn't for her. I do have a number of mentors. Like I have a professional business coach who I pay, and you know she's been incredible. And I hadn't actually engaged with her until probably 6 months ago. So up until this point, all on my own. And a lot of people have asked me. I actually got interviewed by somebody who works for her as to why I signed up with her. And for years, I'd been looking for a mentor. I knew that I needed a business mentor, but I hadn't really felt a connection with anyone. And I know it sounds like a really wanky thing to say, but it was true. Like needed someone that was one-on-one, and then I met her and I just instantly trusted her. And she's so intelligent, articulate, and like, put it for instance, this year, in January, February, she starts talking to me about COVID. She starts saying to me, have you got a plan? You know, have you thought about this? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, this is happening overseas. Like, this isn't coming here. She let it go. Then a week later, she brought it up again, a little bit more forceful. And I was like, Amy, like, all right, I'll have a think about it, but I don't think it's going to happen. But she's obviously talking to all these people over in the world. Like, she's got connections. So it's so important to have someone who is further ahead of you, like, and in front of you on the path, that can look back and say, this is where you're heading. So that's been amazing. But I've also got really good friends who are in the fitness industry, like, and I just lean on and chat to, and who have been in business. And yeah, I think it's hugely important. And I try to give back and mentor, you know, people as well. But, you know, I heard this saying once, this analogy, that it's like, we're all on a ladder, and, you know, if we all reach down every now and then to help someone up, and we all like reach up to be pulled up, and we do that in equal parts, we all get there. But if you're constantly pulling up people beneath you, you're not going to get anywhere. And then if people above you, you're constantly pulling down from them, no one beneath you makes it. So I've really tried to adopt that. Like, I used to do a lot of giving and a lot of mentoring, and my business was suffering. So I have a little bit of time that I set aside every month. And, you know, yeah, I do believe that we all have a responsibility to give back and to inspire, you know, newer people in business. And that's what I love about Newcastle. I feel like the business community is so supportive, and everybody really gets together. And you can see it right now with COVID happening. Like, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm so proud to be a Novocastrian.
Yeah, it's one of the things that it seems to be a constant idea that keeps on popping up, particularly in this last couple of months when all this has been going on. But the Newcastle fitness community in general is like, everyone else questions. It's like, oh, what do you think? Like, Nez doing this, and like, is it competition for you guys? It's like, no, like, me and Nez are friends. Like, we talk. Like, there's no competition in between any of us. It's like, or like everyone expects there to be as if it's like an NRL comp or something like that, and then there's like only one winner at the end of the day with it, and that's like, most of the guys within the Newcastle community all talk.
It's, you know what, like, there is enough to go around. Like, there are 700,000 people that live in this city, and only 12% of them work out. So, you know what, my big thing is, you know, of course I want to do as well as I can. I want to have as many members as I can possible. I want to influence as many people, women's lives, make them better. I want to employ as many women as I can to work in their dream jobs. But at the end of the day, do you know what I'd be so proud of? If in 10 years' time, you know, the trainers that have been in the industry and that are still there in 10 years can look back and say, 10 years ago, it was 12% of people that worked out, and now it's like 15. Like, and we don't get there by doing our own thing. Like, we get there by working together, referring people back and forth, connecting. A rising tide lifts all boats. And I think so many people ask me, what is it that makes you so successful? Like, you know what? I'm actually a terrible business operator. Like, I really, really am. I'm so technologically, you know, handicapped, it's not funny. You know, I'm not that great with people. Like, I've got a temper and I lose it sometimes. I'm not the best fitness trainer. You know, I'm none of those things. But do you know what I am? I am somebody who champions other people, and somebody who wants to see everyone succeed, because I don't get hot and bothered by what other people are doing. I'm in my own lane, and I focus on what I'm doing, and I just every day try to work out how I can show up in the best way possible for the people that need me. And that's all you can do. And if you genuinely if your intentions are right, like, we lose members all the time. Members here go to other gyms all the time, and don't get me wrong, sometimes it stings because you develop a really personal relationship, and that's hard. But, you know, I would never ever like begrudge anyone going somewhere else if they felt like that was the right time and they needed something more or something different. You know, I just think we all have to support each other.
And that's a huge thing, is like, it's the right fit for the right person.
100%.
And like, there's gyms that are very, very different to like what we do. Like, even here is very different to what New Strength does. And there's going to be people who Lissome is the right fit for them. There's going to be people who New Strength's the right fit for. And sometimes it's like, particularly if that person's not quite getting what they want, even though, apologies for that, guys, we did have technical errors. Somebody didn't charge the batteries, which is only my fault. But yeah, essentially, it's like, sometimes like leaving or keeping somebody in your gym when they could be a better fit to go somewhere else, and just over the sake of going, well, we need to still make the money, is like, it's a disservice to the client. And ultimately what we're in this for is for the client. So sometimes it does mean that you need to essentially move somebody on to keep them getting to what they want.
Yeah, I've had this idea for such a long time, and I really want to try and build it out. Like, I would love if, like, we do an exit survey when people leave, and we always have a phone conversation with them, and we always try to figure out what it is, why they're leaving, what they don't, and sometimes people aren't honest, which is hard. But it would be so nice to, like, talk to somebody, and we do this sometimes, and someone might say, you know what, I actually just want to train outdoors more. We can go, great, we've got a women's only gym that do outdoor training, buff girls, can we put you in touch with them? The Pineapple Fitness now. And then we contact Pineapple and we say, hey, we've got a member for you. Can you roll out the red carpet for her? And then all of a sudden she gets a referral. Or it might be, you know what, like, I'm moving to Gateshead, I need something over there, like, need something closer. Great. We know these guys at New Strength. Like, can we put you in touch with them? And then I give you a call and I say, Jacob, I've got this girl, she's coming over. And then all of a sudden, there's so much more chance of them staying in it. And then, you get a member. I know that my member's moving on but still doing something. And I just think it would be so cool for the fitness industry in Australia to, like in Newcastle, to work that way. Like, if we could all refer in between, and it does happen a little bit, but it would be cool to have some sort of official way to do that. Like a really,
Yeah, for sure. And that's a huge piece of it. Is like I guess it starts with people like us starting to build those relationships, and then getting that out there to people, like, to helping bridge that gap a little bit further. And I think it comes from the abundance mindset. It's like, hey, like, it doesn't matter if, like, for us, it's like, okay, how do we best service this person? Like, we have people all the time. It's like, oh, like, I moved a little bit further in town. It's not like, it's a little bit of a drive in the time that they train. Is there somewhere where you could recommend, because I can't keep on doing this, like, it's not on the option anymore. Is there somewhere where you recommend that I can train? And we've sent people around to different gyms and got them to test out, like, at different places that we've suggested for them. And a lot of the time those guys still stay really, really happy with us down the road. And they're the ones that they refer you a client
later on
3 months down the track that it's somebody who lives closer to you and was after what you can offer.
Exactly.
And then you end up being like, oh, that person's still, like, they weren't sour at us over this whole thing. It just wasn't the right fit for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So let's shift into, I want to talk about, like, probably what I think that you're probably better at than nearly anyone else around is, like, this ability to, like, cultivate this community that you guys have here, and then what are some of the things that you guys do in that space there to help tighten people up together and get them engaging with each other?
Yeah. Like this, I think sometimes my coaches think that I'm a little bit crazy because of how pedantic I am about this. So just to give you a little bit of a background, I grew up with deaf parents, and so it's all kind of interesting now when I look back on, what's led me to this part. Like, I grew up with parents, and I used to be really involved in the surf club where most parents were hearing, and there'd be lots of social gatherings and stuff like that. My parents can lip read really well if it's one-on-one, but as soon as you get them in a group, they're gone. And I remember really clearly watching them be isolated and segregated quite often in that social setting, and it really bugged me. Like, I really didn't like it. So now I'm really I can spot it instantly. Like when just before a class, or if we're at a social event like breakfast, or just, whatever it is, I can see that, I can spot the loners. We call them the out on the edge kind of girls who come in, they might not really know anyone. There's like a group of 3 or 4 girls warming up, having a little chat, and there's, old Sally sitting over here by herself and is too shy to, like, make her way into that group. And that whole time, minutes are passing like hours. Like, I know that feeling. I'm really good at spotting that and getting someone to act on it immediately. Like, getting a member or a coach to go over there straight away and integrate that girl and get them involved in a little, either with another friend or with a, little group. And I think that's so important. Like, I'm obsessed with that. Like, I'm constantly walking around making sure everyone's engaged, everyone's included. Like, honestly, we put up on our website all-inclusive environment. 100% I back myself on that every time. So that's one thing.
And that's a big thing, just to jump on that, because it kind of seems like, I know, it's like the no judgment fitness place, and like it's the big gyms that you see is like that's their go-to sayings and stuff like, oh, everyone's welcome here, all inclusive. It in a lot of ways is like the things that everyone actually wants, so everyone's figured out how to market to it too.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a difference between marketing it and doing it, and I think that's a huge thing in the fitness industry right now in general, is just being congruent with what you're telling people that you guys do.
100%. It's interesting you say that, because I constantly go out into the fitness industry. Like, when I travel, when I'm here in Newcastle, I'll just buy a casual visit, and I always go to different gyms, you know, and I've been to gyms where they say that, and yet I'll go in there and have 4 or 5 different trainers, actual PTs on the floor, not even make eye contact with me once. And it's like, I don't get that. You're definitely, like, you're not living by your values. And that's one thing here. We live by our values 100%. We talk about them all the time. You know, Ben Bergeron talked about, you know, there are so many businesses and organisations that have 8 to 10 values, and they just get watered down because there's too many to remember. You're better off having 2 or 3 that you talk about and you know all the time. Ours are excellence, courage, community. And I know 100% we live by that because we talk about it constantly. So, and that's also a great way to get people engaged, because it's like, when they come in, when girls come in, we actually talk to them about this straight off the bat to make sure they're a right fit for us, we're a right fit for them, because no point getting them in and then doing all this work with them 6 months down the track, them going, you know what, I actually don't really want to be a part of the community. I don't want to, you know, talk to other people. I just want to turn up and do my thing. I don't really want to go to, like, there's no point in them being here, and that's fine. Like, go and train somewhere else where you're feeling like you're getting more out of it. But better that we know that right from the get-go. And what's so powerful is when girls hear us say that and live by it, they then come in and they go, oh, we already know what their values are. So they already come in with that mindset, like, open to being a part of the community. So I think that's hugely important. And you know, I talk about it, like Ben Bergeron also says, like, you know, nothing really exists until you feel like you're talking about it so much that you're annoying people. And it's so true. Like, I feel like I'm constantly just talking about stuff, like talking about this community thing to my members, to my coaches all the time. And that's why we live and breathe it. That's why it's able to come through, and yeah, it works.
Yeah, and that is one of the things that I really, really love about it. The more that we hang out, the more that we speak, is like that there is like, here's all these things that you're doing, going out of your way to like feed these few things that are like, this is the most important stuff here. It's like, and if for some place the values are like world-class programming, and alongside that they want to have like the best like beer drinking events on the weekends or whatever outside of that, like that's all good. Or they're like, hey, we're the learners, Jim. We don't want to talk to other people. Like, we just get in, we put our like Beats by Dre headphones in, and like you don't pay attention to anyone else. It's like, cool, like that's it. But it's be in that environment where that's the right thing for you, which is probably like Anytime Fitness anywhere that you want to go.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Every gym is so different. When I look at just the gyms in Newcastle, every single gym's got their own flavour, and it always comes from the owners. But you know what? As long as, you know, you are so, like, I heard this saying once, branding is what you are, but also what you're not. And I know that so well now. Like, now I know who we are and also who we're not. You know, we're not a gym that puts down other gyms on our social media. We're not a gym that, shows photos of girls and their ass and their tits and whatever. Like, we're not a gym that sexualizes our members. Like, we're not a gym that, you know, like, is elitist and focused on competition. Like, we're about community when we go to comps. Like, you know, I know what we're not as much as I know who we are, and I think that's so important. So it doesn't matter what you are, as long as you stand by it and you believe in it, you will be successful, because you will attract your tribe. There's a tribe out there for everyone.
That's great. That's a bit of gold there. I don't think there's much more that you can say that's on that topic than that right there. Let's quickly touch base before we finish up on this. I want to go through, like, what are some key lessons that you learned in your own journey on that start where you got into fitness, that then might be something that, like, somebody, like, particularly this goes out to a lot of people in the local community, that they see pieces like this, is like, what should say, like, how old were you when you started that point, when you was getting into the CrossFit training in the first point?
Well, it was 10 years ago, so I was 27. I'm 37 now, so 10 years ago.
You look younger than me.
Oh, stop it. You're too kind. You're too kind. It's the CrossFit. Yeah, no, 10 years ago I joined my first gym.
Cool. So let's say somebody is like joining their first gym, or like on the fence of that, and like they just want a little bit of insight into like where should they put their focus, how should they go about that. What are some key lessons that you learned in your experience there that they might be able to take on board on the start of their journey?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I've learned, especially with women, you know, everybody's so fearful of judgment, but yet when you ask somebody, well, like, you know, say for instance, you get someone who, you know, weighs 20, 30 kilos more, like overweight, and they say, I'm fearful of judgment. I'm fearful of, you know, coming in here and trying to run and somebody judging me. And I say to them, cool, all right, I want you to imagine you're driving down the street and you see someone 20, 30 kilos overweight jogging down the street. What do you think? And she says, well, I think that's amazing. Like, I think good on them. And I say to them, well, don't you think everybody thinks that? You know, we're all so fearful of judgment, and yet the only judgment we have is on ourselves. So my biggest advice is to just realize that. Most people, ironically, are so worried about themselves, are so fixated on what weight they're doing or what they want to achieve in a workout, what they want to get out of it, they don't even notice you. And most people aren't as mean as you think they are. Most people are genuine, are encouraging. And I think when you come into an environment, what I try and talk to my girls about all the time, you know, Tony Robbins talks about this. You can only suffer when you're focused on the self. When you're focused on you and what you're not achieving, what results you're not getting, what you're not doing, how you're less than others, you're never going to get anywhere. Focus on giving. Focus on contribution. Focus on coming in and like cheering somebody else on in a workout. Focus on uplifting somebody else. Focus on like, you know, getting around a good crew of girls and like being happy. Guess what? You're going to get those results. You're going to feel better. You're going to be more successful. You're going to achieve those things because your focus is on others, and therefore you feel good and the results come. So, you know, really ask yourself, how are you showing up? Because if you come in here and you're nervous, like I say to girls all the time, when you step through these doors, you'll get out what you put in. If you come in here and you don't talk to anyone and you're resistant and you hold back and you're judgmental and you're really quiet, you're not going to last. But if you come in here and you smile and you make eye contact, someone will come over and talk to you. And, you know, every now and then if you go to breakfast, you'll make some friends. And if you turn up often enough, people get to know your name, and then people will cheer you on and people will want to buddy with you. Another thing, you know, I think most people don't realize the power they have within them. You know, I have so many girls that come in and get to a decent level of fitness and strength, and then they start to just become more focused on themselves. But then they don't, and then we do a lot of buddied workouts where they have to buddy up with someone else. And sometimes we go through cycles where I can see the same girls buddying up with each other all the time. And I get really annoyed with them because I'm like, you have no idea if you buddied up with that new girl up the back there who's only been here 2 months, what you would do for her today. And then all of a sudden they go and do it, and then an hour later I get a screenshot of a message going, oh my God, I just got this message, and that person's message that girl saying, oh my God, I can't believe you buddied with me today, thank you so much, that was a highlight of my week, like that meant so much to me, I hope I didn't slow you down too much. It's like people don't get it, people don't realize how impactful they can be when they just like look around and they think about giving and how they can help others. You know, like when you come into our gym, we've got such a huge array of age, shapes, sizes, level of fitness and strength, experience. And what I love more than anything is watching the polar opposites match up. And, you know, I love seeing a 16, 17-year-old girl with a 60-year-old woman in a workout. I love seeing like the most experienced athlete here with the brand new girl, like buddy up. Like it's just, you know, that's what life's all about.
I think there's a couple of great key things there. Like inside those, like when you come with that giving mentality to it and you come with those intentions, it's way easier to just buy into the process. And then because it's no longer about you in that process, it's about like how can I help the other person in this process here. So all of a sudden you're all in. And anytime you can get to that point where you're all in on whatever it is, like whether it's fitness, whether it's like your job that you're working at, then the actual doing of it is hard. And that's like we talk so many times like with people, it's like, okay, cool, it's not the thing, like the thing itself isn't that hard, it's getting to being willing to show up and do the thing. Like so often that's the hurdle, and particularly with, as you said, is like if you can just make it, like if you go and come in with a giving hand and you look after that newer person that's a little bit more like not used to it, not as comfortable yet, and then it makes it easier for them to do the same thing the next time for somebody else. All of a sudden you don't know where that trickle ends up. It could be like you don't know that person's background. That person could be having a shit relationship or whatever, and this is the bit that makes them like, hey, you know what, like I can move on past this. So like as you said with yourself at that starting point of the journey, it was like, and I think this is one of the things that I talked with Mike from Cornerstone on the podcast with yesterday. Is like, hey, the fitness point is just the start. Like you get on top of your own personal health and how can we help people get into that period where it's like, okay, cool, like now I'm taking ownership on this, like I'm showing up, I'm doing this consistently so that it can unpack and unravel all those other pieces in your life that you can change and you can do whatever you want with it in that space. But the fitness piece is like, often the easiest bit that we can unravel first, and it opens up people's minds to the rest of that there.
Yeah.
And I think that was one thing that you said at the start for you there that's really super important, and it shows the value of like why you still need to come in with that giving mentality, because then it helps you get bought into that process so that you can jump onto those next pieces for yourself. And I think by the sounds of it, that's very much of what's happened with your own story, as well as like what you try to create in the journey for the girls here.
Well, you know what? I always ask myself, like what do people want more than anything in life? You know, Tony Robbins has these 6 pillars of life. We all need certainty, but we also need uncertainty. We need variety. We need love. We need connection. But the 2 things that he has found make people the happiest and most fulfilled are growth and contribution. So here we focus on connection. That's a huge pillar. There is a level of certainty, like you know every time you come in, up until COVID obviously, what you're going to get, but then there's also that variety in the programming. But then aside from that, we are constantly pushing them to grow. We've got a podcast as well. We're constantly sending them blogs and articles on mindset, nutrition, but then we're constantly asking them to contribute. Like, you know, there's not a day that goes by you won't get asked here to contribute something to the community, even if it's something as simple as going over and high-fiving someone at the end of the workout or getting around that last girl to finish. You know, and that's where people thrive, when they're asked to grow, but they're also asked to contribute as well. We all desperately want that. And if I look at my life, like that, they are the things that have brought me the most joy. Like if I died tomorrow, I would die happy knowing that the last 6 years of my life, before that, I didn't do anything worth even talking about. But the last 6 years, I've given more and I've grown more than ever. And, you know, more probably than most people have in 30 years. And I'd hang my hat up on that. I'm happy about that. And if I can give a little bit of that to a couple hundred girls or a couple of thousand girls in Australia, like, or in Newcastle and Maitland and online, then I'm stoked at that. Like, that's my growth and that's my contribution.
I love that, Nez. I think that's what we're finishing up on. I don't think there's any more that we need to cover than that. That's so amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I really appreciate you having me here at Lissome today and getting to talk this stuff, because I think it's one of the things that we all love as fitness coaches and being in this space, but often we do also have the trouble. It's probably the best thing with COVID at the moment, to be honest, is like everyone's got free time and I'm like, hey, you want to come and podcast now? And I was like, I don't know, I've got no coaching to do, so yeah, I've got time.
Exactly, it's great. Slow down a bit.
It is always great to catch up with yourself and other people in this industry locally and help connect and hopefully take a little bit of these lessons that we can bridge out and help the wider community and get from that 12% to that 15% over those next 10 years.
Yeah, honestly, thank you so much. Like, I think what you're doing this and interviewing people, you know, around Newcastle is a step towards doing that. You're such a great addition to the fitness community here, and you're always so flattering when you come in here. You're always saying such nice things, and I think the same about you guys. Like, I respect what you guys do so much, and it's nice to have nice relationships with, you know, other fitness owners, you know, business owners in the industry. So I really appreciate the invite to be on the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Guys, if you enjoyed this, make sure you share it on your Instagram story. And then also, if you want to hear more amazing pieces like this, make sure to join our Facebook group, the Newey Health Hub, where we're going to be sharing a lot more amazing people at Nez in the local fitness community and getting their insights as to how you can take your own health and fitness to reach your goals or to take it to that next level wherever you're at right now. That's it for the New Strength Way today, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome.